my guest tonight has close to 1 billion streams of his 5 albums to date and averaging 1 million more every week, making him one of the most listened to comedians of all time. He's originally from and still residing in rural Minnesota. He has been touring the country for over 20 years. He has made 6 late night appearances to date and is one of only 13 comics to be featured on The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien. His previous album, Footprints on the Moon, was the most streamed comedy album of 2017. His third stand-up special and 5th album, Dad Channels, was released on Amazon in 2019. And his hugely popular podcast, Middle of Somewhere, with co-host Cy Admonson, is released weekly and currently at a whopping 125 episodes. He's currently out promoting his new album, 12th Night, which is available exclusively on Pandora until October 7th, when it will be available everywhere. His own website says he might be the most listened to comedian you wouldn't recognize. But tonight, we're going to change that. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce in person, in visuals, our guest tonight, the ridiculous funny Chad Daniels, everybody. Yay!
Hello. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you found a good spot to film from, and you cleaned up for us. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody always has a nice backdrop, and I have whatever I put on my counter behind me.
It's a good look, man. You know what? It connects to who you are as a character, as a person. You know, it reflects very well.
It is come in, set it down, turn my computer on, and go time.
Beautiful. I love it. It's easy. It's that you got to keep things easy.
Absolutely.
So we were just discussing real quickly that this is kind of a military veteran audience. I always like to start the first question. Do you have, or what is your connection to the military? Like, obviously, I know you haven't served, but do you have family member that served? Do you have friends that served? Anything like that?
I mean, I think honestly, the closest family member I have to serving is National Guard, and I know that counts. I'm not discounting it, but when you hear about the big 4, it's not mentioned. And then I have friends that have been in the military. So yeah, I think friends are probably have more of a military background than family.
Yeah. And by the way, we do have a live audience, guys. If you have questions for Chad, throw them in the chats. As always, we'll try to get to them. We already got the first comment coming in about have you locker boxed your kid lately? So that's
someone has heard Dad Channel.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I've also might have been sharing a lot of your clips throughout the week. So
nice.
Just because I love your stuff. I really do.
Thanks.
I'll tell you real quick. Obviously, I've done a tiny bit of comedy, as my audience knows, and I found you. And I think you've mentioned this before, that it's very popular to hear, but I found you on Pandora. Like, I just love listening to the comedy stations, and I kept hearing this voice, and I was like, damn it, that's good. Damn it, that's funny. And then I started, like, recognizing the voice. And finally, I was like, man, I got to, because, I'm driving when I'm doing it. So I'm like, I've got to find out who this is. And I'm like, all right. And the first thing I saw was Dad Channels. I'm like, that's a weird name. I'm like, oh, that's the album. All right. But yes, Chad.
My daughter sent me a TikTok once of, how people on TikTok can do voiceovers?
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there listening to one of my own bits, and it took me 15 seconds to realize it was me. So I understand not recognizing the voice right away, because I was like, who is this? I was like, oh, that's a joke that I
That guy's funny, man. He's got good stuff.
I never said that. I was like, who is it?
So I do want to say, too, about that. Like, you have a line that you say in one of your specials too about, like, I know, like, you come out and the first words are like, I know this isn't what you expected. I mean, does that come from,
right. Yeah.
Does that come from, like, knowing that most people know you from Pandora and things like that?
Yeah. I mean, there was a time where I was down in Tampa, Florida at a club called Side Splitters, and I was wearing dark jeans and a black t-shirt. And this woman came up to me, and she was like, excuse me, sir, do you know where the restroom is? And I was like, yep, if you just go right back here. I mean, I was dressed like a bouncer, so I didn't care. And I was like, yeah, just go right over here, and it's on your left. And she goes, oh, that voice, it's you. And so I was like, aha, it's another Pandora listener. But it's kind of nice. I mean, I've been standing in the lobby of clubs before, standing right next to people, and they've been telling their friend about a bit of mine and have no idea I'm standing there. So it's kind of fun in that way.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're unassuming. You're just sneaking in and out.
Yeah, it's like, some people say, would you rather be able to fly or be invisible? And it's like, well, I'm invisible. It's nice. I can just kind of walk around and no one knows.
Yeah. I'm curious. Do you ever like when you find out about that? Like, oh man, I've heard you on Pandora. You're like, God damn it, buy an album. Stop listening to me for free. Like.
No, I don't. However they listen is fine with me.
All right, so we're gonna rewind a little bit.
Okay.
I know you're born. You live in was it Fergus Falls, Minnesota?
Yeah.
I did a little digging. I like to get to know my guests before they come on, and I
Okay.
found out that before doing stand up, you were working for Xerox, and that
Yes, that's correct.
subsequently got let go.
Uh-huh.
Got yourself a nice little 6 month severance package. And
did.
this was all in about 1998. And that after that, that's how you found yourself kind of at the Acme Comedy Company in Minneapolis. Your friends signed you up for an open mic without your knowledge. And
Yep.
the comedic legend was born, right? That's
Well, I threw myself a retirement party because I was like, I got money and I'm not even having to work. It's time for a retirement party. And so we were all down there and they were doing shots and they wouldn't let me do a shot. So I was like, I'm not driving you guys for my own retirement party. And then we go to Acme and they announce my name. And I kind of looked at them like, someone else has my name. And they were like, nope, it's you. Gotta go. And so I got up and it was a miserable 3 minutes, but man, I fell in love with it, even though I was just petrified standing up there.
right. Yeah, it's scary, man. Not a lot of people got the balls to do it. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
and from what I was reading too, that like you've wanted to do comedy since you were very young. So I'm curious, what's your kind of first memory as it relates to stand-up comedy?
Well, straight stand up, like me watching it, my parents were watching Eddie Murphy Delirious, and I was in my bedroom, and I kind of had to crawl out, on my elbows and knees, and then I was watching it from underneath my dad's reclined feet, and I was just like, why is I can't believe this guy's swearing this much. And I normally, if I swear, I get yelled at, and this guy's cursing more than I've ever heard before, and my parents are howling. So I thought that was fantastic. And I used to listen to my grandfather would listen to Bob Newhart on vinyl, and he would also watch Hee Haw and All in the Family, and he would laugh so hard his shoulders would shake. And I just thought, this is incredible. To get someone else to laugh that hard is unreal. And I just kind of fell in love with the idea of being one of those goofballs that were making people laugh. So
I'm sure you learned a lot of new words too, watching that Eddie Murphy special.
oh man, it was so great. Cause then I remember my art teacher left one time and I was like, stood up on the desk. I was like, guys, listen, I saw something. You guys should probably hear about it. And I went off and everyone was like, dude, that's like 100 hours of detention. What are you doing?
You would just put on a performance. If only you had like the red leather. You put on the jumpsuit, everything, and
Yeah,
this. I mean, was it the old show and tell or the talent show? Like up next, Chad Daniels performing
that would
Delirious.
have been absolutely incredible.
All right, so I guess the age old question of like, if you weren't doing comedy, what would you be doing right now? What if the comedy you never got on stage at Acme, man? You never took that first step. What are you doing right now?
Well, let's see. I used to say that I wanted to be a teacher, not to this question. Before stand up, I was like, I think I could teach. And then I have seen children now, and I don't think I could do it. Because when I said I wanted to teach, that was still when you could grab someone by the ear and take them out in the hallway.
Sure.
Now you have to sit and listen to their shit, and I just can't handle it. So I don't think I could be a teacher. And I know that I could not do anything in customer service because the idea that the customer's always right when they're just the dumbest drives me crazy. I always want to sit at a customer service that's not punched in. Just sit there and like citizens arrest people and just go, you're not right. I know it says it on the sign, but you're not right. Your logic sucks. So I can't do that. So I think I'd probably do something like just like drywall or, just so I could kind of be in my own space.
Right.
Listen to my own music and just, then at the end of the day, you've completed something. I mean, I think feels pretty good because I used to drywall and I enjoyed it. So
there you go. Hey,
yeah.
Chad Daniels home repair, like the backup plan just in case if anything falls through.
Right.
All right. So what else? For the listeners out there that maybe aren't as familiar with your back catalog, as it were, what bit do you think you're most known for? Like, which one do people like come at you the most with?
Well, I would say so. I get Locker Box a lot. And that's from Dad Chaniels, but that's because Locker Box is like a follow-up bit to another bit that was on a different album.
Punching your kid in the face.
Yeah, right, yeah. But I do think IHOP, I brought my kids to IHOP, and I think that's probably the biggest one, because that's the one when I realized people were actually coming to shows and buying tickets to see me, because people would yell, IHOP! And I was like, okay, wow, I didn't realize this was happening. At one point in Philadelphia, kind of a fun story is this guy yelled, do the IHOP bit. And I go, honestly, I could tell you the story, how it happened. But I go, I don't remember the comedic timing of it because I haven't told it in a long time. And he goes, I do. And I was like, all right, come up here. And so he went up on stage. I went and sat with his friends and drank his beer while he told my joke. Man, that's how comedy should be. I could get behind that.
Then you've made it when you can sit down. Like, I got paid to be here, but let me take a sit in the audience and you just do my old material. Just go through the back catalog. You got it.
I would love that so much, to just sit in the crowd and have other people do stuff I've written. Oh man, talk about narcissism. That's got it in spades.
But man, that guy's funny. That guy's got it. He's got it, man. That material is A+. Which actually it brings, and I have this list of questions that I'm going to go through, but that brings a point that I'm curious about, because, when I did comedy a little bit, like I had, my friends and other comedians that we were working together, and they loved my material. Oh my God, it's awesome. Great. And then when I'm like, all right, cool. I've been doing that for a little while. I want to try other stuff. I'd always get that, oh, that was good, but man, the other stuff you had, like, how do you battle that as a comedian when everybody just wants to hear the last thing you did and is kind of like, meh, on the next thing?
That's a good question, because I get a lot of, oh, you should talk about your kids more, because I think they relate to that, because the word I've heard me described as the most is relatable, and I know there are young parents out there that listen to that and just like, I can't wait till my kids are that old, that kind of stuff. But there are other times I have opinions on things, or I think something else is funny, and people will come up and go, oh, you should talk about your kids more. It's just like, I don't know what to tell them. I just go, hey, if you love that stuff, it is recorded. You can listen to it at your leisure, whenever you'd like. So, I think for me, I just tell people, I got to be doing new stuff. I can't be doing the same stuff or I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to sit up there and just end up snapping. So.
And that's when the local comedian kills audience members asking for IHOP.
Just put a mic on a bungee cord and start slapping people in the forehead with it throughout the room.
Yes, I love it. The little yo-yo, they throw out the yo-yo trick. So some people put on kind of a character for the stage. Now, I get the sense from your material, from interviews I've watched with you, that you are the same person on and off stage. I mean, is that more or less accurate?
Yeah, I think so. I never wanted to do a character because I knew there were going to be days I was going to be tired. And sometimes, I know guys that do characters, and I hang out with them in the green room, and I know they're exhausted, and then they have to go out and do an energetic character, and it's like, oh my God, no thank you. So I decided I'm just going to play at one level the whole time. And, but, then some people think I have a character, or I'll be, joking off stage and people are like, hey buddy, show's over. And it's like, well, I was me before I became a comedian.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not Chad the comedian. I'm just this guy who thought that was funny and wanted to tell my friends about it. So,
yeah.
So I don't have a character because I like to keep it. It's almost like lying. I don't want to have to remember how to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a perfect example. And with you, and I know that you've been told this, that like you have this unique timing or this unique pattern of how you talk and deliver certain lines. But then I'll watch interviews and I'll go, oh my God, that's just how he talks. That's not this like, oh, I'm a comedic master by like, that's just the way you talk. And it's funny. So
yeah. And anytime I hear that, anytime somebody goes, oh, your cadence is, and I go, oh, I have no idea. I have no idea. This is not planned. This is not something I sat down and thought of. This is just it.
Yeah. It's just you like, okay, I learned if I say this and I stop here, people laugh. And then I'll say the next thing that make people laugh.
Yeah, exactly. It's a timing thing. And, sometimes I'll be doing a joke where I think it should go one way and the crowd will laugh early. And I go, oh, so the crowd's like teaching me, hey, man, this is how the joke goes. Just,
this is where we want to, this is where we want to laugh. Yeah, you gotta give us, no, that's good. So you have two kids, your son Isaac, who's, I'm guessing 22. And your daughter, Abby, who's 17.
Yes.
Oh, man, I'm nailing it today. My research is on fire. Now we kind of touched on it that you've kind of built a career on talking about your kids and how relatable it is. And they've grown up with us. We've grown up with them. You've grown up with them in the comedy space. I mean, How do they feel about that? I'm curious, because I know that, and that's something that'll change throughout time. But currently, how do they feel about being comedy icons?
I think, well, I brought them out at the end of Dad Channels. So at the end of the special, I introduced my children. They come out, and people cheered louder for my kids than they did for me. And yes, I was hurt by that, but I didn't show it at the time. But I think they have enjoyed it. I've asked them anytime I have a bit about my kids, I ask them if it's okay to do it. And so, I've been told no a couple times, and that's fine with me. But the ones they've said yes on have been, it's been very fun. And like you said, people, I've been talking about it since they were so little that when people meet them after shows, if they're traveling with me or something, they'll be like, I was like, you grew up in our house. And one lady lost her mind. One lady was like, what does your son think about this? It's in San Francisco. And we were outside and I go, why don't you ask him? He's right there. And she ran over and picked him up and started spinning with him. And he was 18 years old at the time. She like put his face in her hands like, oh, Isaac. It was so funny to watch. And he was just looking at me like, who is this? This is like a long lost aunt I don't know about. I was like, no. This is what happens, I guess.
Just, I mean, and again, no jealousy at all. That the comedian that comes up with the material is not getting the love. It's just the character that they brought to stage.
Hey, that's fine with me. It started off. So I always wanted to make it about how I was reacting to what they did. But sometimes, I mean, it's just a fact. Like the funniest line comes from the kids. So I'm at my lake cabin, and let me be very clear to the people listening. I live in Minnesota. There are 10,000 lakes. This is not like I have a lake cabin out east where it's like, come to my cottage this weekend. It's not like that. It's a little tiny thing. Well, you can see it. It's got a 1970 refrigerator and wood paneling. Yeah, you can see it. So we were out here the first day we bought it, and we were out on the dock fishing. And this boat comes by and is like, are you the new owners? And Isaac and I were fishing. And I go, yeah. And they go, how do you like your little piece of paradise? And we're like, we love it. And then the guy goes, I wonder what the poor people are doing tonight. That's what he asked. And then Isaac goes, we're fishing. And I almost fell off the dock. I was laughing so hard. But that's just like, he's so funny. He's so dry, but he's so incredibly funny. And then my daughter's the other way where, she's more of an entertainer, while Isaac will just throw out 2 words and I almost fall into the water. So they are very funny.
That's so good. And so being that your comedy has derived, and I'm not solely, it's not like every joke is about your kids, but they're the recurring theme, I should say. Being that that's been the case, and now they're kind of aging out of material. I mean, do you see like, okay, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that you're still. So my 37-year-old told me the other. Like, is that what you? What's the future for Chad Daniels when
that would be awesome.
The kids are off doing their thing.
I'm in the third step in the adoption process. I'm kidding. That'd be great. Why do you, Mr. Davis? Why do you want a kid? Well, I need some material.
I need material, man.
Are you kidding me? So I don't know. I mean, right now my daughter's 17. She's senior in high school. She's got a boyfriend. So I talk a little bit about that. But now I'm kind of opening stuff up to, I mean, listen, when my kids were 5 to 18, I mean, my son was 18, my daughter was 13. I was in the thick of it. So I didn't want to go out there and talk about things that were half-assed. I wanted to go and talk about things that were important to me and things that I was the master of my domain of, because if someone heckled me, I could go, how would you know? You don't live in our home, So I wanted to make sure that hecklers didn't have anything to say because, I was the dad, they were the kids, we were living together, all that stuff. And so that was the thought process behind that. And so now that they are getting older, in the last album, this 12th Night album that I did, which by the way was because of lockdown, I recorded it on the 12th night that I did comedy in a stand-up year or a calendar year, excuse me. And so it's an interesting album. I mean, you can feel the rust on it a little bit and stuff like that, and I wanted to leave that on there because it's like no one's good at stand-up 12 times in a year. So I wanted to leave that and make it authentic. And Isaac, I don't even think I mentioned him on it, even though he's the guy that introduces me. He's kind of aged out of it because he's got a job. He's living by himself. He's got a girlfriend who does not want to be talked about, and that's fine. So now that's off the table.
Right.
Now, my daughter, on the other hand, she's got a boyfriend. They don't care if I talk about it. They come home and tell me stories like, is that funny? Almost like they're auditioning to get into the act. It's like, well, no, it isn't. It has to be, something. I have to be involved somehow, or otherwise I'm just telling you, why don't you do stand-up? Come open for me. That's what I say. But, so we'll see. But I've had a fantastic run. So let's just say the worst possible scenario. Everyone's like, your kids are too old. We're not coming anymore. I'll be like, all right, that was a fantastic run.
Right.
And then I'll just walk around the lake drywalling people's cabins.
That or adopting kids.
Yes,
one or the other. That's always a solid backup plan, or you can do like a babysitting gig, just so you can mine material. I'll watch your kids for the weekend.
I'm going to have to get my son and his girlfriend drunk, see if they can make a baby. I'm like, hey, I'm a grandpa now, you guys.
There you go.
We're firing it back up.
That's the next phase, man. You move from dad channels to grandpa channels.
Oh, you kidding me? Look at this. I've earned every bit of it.
There you go.
That's insane how white that is.
20 years of the road, man. It'll get you there.
No kidding.
I had written something a little sly and silly, and I wrote that I'm honestly not surprised that your kids are such a big part of your stand-up, because I know that you were just a few weeks into your first comedy gig when you found out you were going to be a dad, which makes sense.
Yeah.
This huge, amazing thing is happening in your life, and then also you find out you're going to be a dad. So that's
Yeah.
Terrible
that
misdirection.
Was that was something else. I remember she called me and she was like, I'm pregnant. And I was like, great news. I haven't even unpacked my bags. And then she's like, I don't know what this says about my character, but she was like, I'm not going to need you till the third trimester, so stay up there. So she didn't even want me around for the first 6 months, which is, great.
Okay.
But I went back on my off days. We made it work. She was very supportive. So, so that was very helpful in getting things started. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that leads into my next point, which is, for you, where's the line of something that you won't joke about? Because I've noticed you never talk about your divorce. You never talk about your ex really in your material. And is that I'm assuming that's by choice.
Yeah.
So is that considered something that's just like off limits, or is there more to that?
Well, when we were married, it was, we were a couple, so it had to be expected I was going to talk about some stuff. But now that we're not, it's not for me to say anything about her.
Right.
It's our divorce is both of our stories, and if she doesn't want it told, that's her business. So that's why I chose not to do that.
Yeah, and it makes sense because, like you say, you're relatable in the sense that you're a dad and you're doing these challenges. But something like I have divorced friends. I have guys that are divorced and dealing with children going back and forth, and I could understand where that might be rife with material. But having that line in the sand that says, "Yeah, this is not something I'm going to talk about," it's respectable. It's to say that this is off limits.
Yeah, so I made the rule early on, and there have been several times where I've just went, "Damn it," because something is just so good, and it's like I can't. I made a rule, so I'm sticking with it. But there have been some. Man, I've written them down, so hopefully somebody finds them when they're going through my shit when I'm dead.
The unreleased jokes of Chad Daniels.
Yeah, right.
I got it. The album title is "In Memoriam," Chad Daniels.
Yeah, I'll take it.
And it's all the stuff that you've written down. I when you say like I made this rule, it comes to mind like Batman. Like I will not kill. Like I will not slay with these jokes that I have. Is there? So I'm curious because of that line, because of that rule, and I guess you just kind of alluded to it. Has there ever been a situation where you're like something happens? Because I know you also said that you won't talk about something your kids don't want you to talk about.
Right.
Is there ever been that moment where something happens and the immediate reaction is like, "Oh my God, please don't talk about that on stage"? Like, does that ever happen?
Yeah, my daughter has said that driving before. She has told me a whole story that is, I mean, we have such an open and honest relationship where I know some things that other dads don't hear about till they find a diary or some other stuff.
Right.
And so she has told me some stuff that's very embarrassing, but she wanted to get it off her chest. And then she'll just put her hand on my wrist and go, "Absolutely no talking about this." It's like, well, I even know where the line is.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't do that to you.
I'm curious, has there been moments where you're like, "Oh, I want, like, this is something I definitely want to share," and they like shut, like you do like almost like a negotiation back and forth, like, "Can I? No. Can I please? No." Anything like that?
No, I never ask more than once. If it's a no, that's it. And then my son has never ever said no to something, but I think he regrets letting me talk about his inability to supinate his hand like this,
right?
Because his forearms are fused together, and so instead of doing this, he has to put it up here like this, like he's a server with a tray,
right?
And so I think he regrets that only because when he went to college, people found out about it through that bit, and then he was kind of like everything was at that expense. Every joke made was about his wrists and stuff. Yeah. So I think that if he could have one take back, that would be the joke. Otherwise, I think he's thrilled about the stuff that's happened, and he thinks it's funny and it's true. So, I mean, it's not like I'm making him look like a punk or anything. Right. These are things that he said and things that we've been through. And
yeah, and one thing I do respect so much about your craft is that every time you are gonna knock your kid or knock where, like, there's always this feeling of like you kind of pick them back up. You kind of make them almost like the hero of the story as it ends. I don't know if it's a conscious decision or it's just a protective dad thing, but like, you're like, "Oh, you're such an idiot," but then he's like, "Oh, he does this thing that's super funny," so it's like always a pickup.
Yeah, I think it's just, have you ever heard a dad tell a story about their kids and at the end you keep waiting for the good part and you're like, "Oh, this guy just doesn't like his kids."
Right.
Okay, I got it. And I love my kids to death. So, it's like, hey, look at what kids do. Aren't they stupid? Here's how my kids reacted to it, and either you like it or you don't, whatever. But I thought it was, so
right.
Yeah, it's just one of those deals where, and I think that goes for kids in general. It's like, yeah, you're the dumbest, but it's because you're a kid. You're gonna get better.
Yeah.
That's how life works.
I have a son. He's 4, and I always said, like, I'm not going to be that dad that, like, my kid's the greatest, my kid's the best looking, my kid's the smartest. Like, I'm going to be realistic. Now, of course, I happen to think that my son's the most adorable, cutest, smartest, funniest kid ever, but that's besides the fact.
Course.
I think he was like 2, and he would drink and then just dribble at it and like let it go down his shirt and laugh. And I'm like, oh my God, that is the funniest thing I've ever seen. But at the same time, like, oh my God, you're so dumb. You're just so dumb. But I love you to death.
I brought my kid to a ECFE, early childhood and family education class when he was 4. And there was this mom there, had a really little kid. And I remember she was saying like, what does a cat say? What does a cat say? And the little kid went, moo. And she goes, that's right, that's a cow. And I was like, what are you doing? You asked for a cat. Don't just move on. Don't just skip the fact that your kid thinks a cat's a cow for our sake. Let's get to the bottom of this.
Oh my God.
It's ridiculous.
I love it. And for those that maybe think you're putting on a performance and how you want to react to these people, I have it on good authority. You've done some pretty outrageous things off stage. I can immediately think of pouring gas on someone at a gas station, things like that. So this is,
man, that was messed up though.
This is 100% you for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to say fired up sometimes. Yes.
Yeah. Do you think, I'm curious, do you think the 20 years of stand-up have made you bolder or made you more of that way? Or has this been you from day one?
Yeah, I mean, this was me back in junior high, I think, just because I didn't really know how to have a conversation with someone when I disagreed with them. So I went immediately to the top rung of the ladder and it was just like, what are you talking? That kind of thing.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it just is a lack of learning communication skills when I was younger and having nothing else to do but go to the big like movie, you go to the theater and you see it builds up and all of a sudden at the end, the guy says this and you're like, that's crazy. But then you try it in real life and everyone's like, you're an idiot, buddy. Calm it down.
I mean, it's you've been like, because to me that it's that performance level. The way I look at it is that like, where most people kind of ramp up or they, there's a verbal, like you just immediately go to that performance level of like, all right, let's put on a show, and get people riled up.
I think I live right below there. So it's not too far of a jump. I don't have to go too much higher.
Right. Oh man, that's so good. And I want to point out for people that, that are just getting to know you here that like you self-released your first album, which is 2 minutes for Stale Hacking.
Right.
You signed up with Stand Up Records, which they issued Busy Being Awesome, You're the Best, Natural Selection, and then you did your stand up special As Is, and then was it in 2017 you signed up with or teamed up with 800 Pound Gorilla Records, which by the way, awesome name, to release the 5th album, Footprints on the Moon, and it's like as I look through this and as I read this, I'm like it's you. What drives you? What, like, you seem to have this, like, I'm going to succeed. Like, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. Like, what can people do to get some of that?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm glad it looks like that because that is not actually what's going on.
Okay.
There was no plan like, I'm going to do an album here, and here. I mean, Footprints on the Moon, I was supposed to record in Cincinnati at Go Bananas in January. And when I got to Comedy on State in Madison, Wisconsin, at I think it was early November, the sound guy at the time goes, "We just got a brand new sound system. Let's record the set." And then we did, and it came out. The show was unreal. I mean, we needed to take out like a couple coughs, but that was it. We didn't hardly edited anything, and then that was the album. So it wasn't like I was, like, here's what we're going to do, and then we're going to do this, and that's going to happen, and then we're going to do this, and that's going to happen. So all I know is I can't stand doing the same material over and over and over. I remember I was doing a joke. I have a really, really old joke about I hit a pheasant with my car, and a woman followed me off the interstate to yell at me at a gas station. And so I have a whole joke about that, but I did it for so long because it was comfortable and people really liked it that my friends after the show one time, they were like, "Hey, what were you thinking about when you were doing that joke?" And I go, "What do you mean?" And they go, "Your eyes just glazed over." And you know what? I was honestly thinking about what I wanted to eat after the show. And so I was just on autopilot And from then on, I was like, I don't want to do autopilot anymore. I would rather have jokes that aren't as funny, but new. So at least at least I'm feeling them,
Right.
even if the crowd is like, well, this is okay. I mean, at least I'm into them because they're new words.
You're in the moment versus just
exactly.
on autopilot.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right.
Okay. Oh, that's right. We do have a question from Jim in the chat. He says, is your son going to do comedy and tell us the stories about you?
I offered, Jim, that's a great question, because I thought it would be so fun for them to come during the summer when I was working in the summer. I don't normally work in the summer because of my kids. I like to be home just hanging out. But I said, hey, if you guys want to do some summer dates, you guys could come, open the show, tell stories about me, and then that could be your summer job because, clubs pay both openers. So you guys could split the money and that could be your summer job and we could go see some cool stuff around the country. And then they thought it was cool for about 10 minutes. And then one of their friends called and was like, hey man, we're going to Zorba's, like this pizza restaurant. And they were like, all right, Dad, sorry, we can't talk about this anymore. We have our lives to live.
Screw your dreams and your thing.
I think that would have been so fun though.
I think the audience would love that. Absolutely. And I'm not even going to ask that. Yeah. Jim, he says, did your son really have Velcro shoes? And I'm like, don't all little kids have Velcro shoes? But that's. I
will say he did have Velcro shoes.
Yeah. Well,
wrists, remember?
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. Okay. So I want to speak a little bit more about, the art of stand-up comedy, the stand-up comedy in general. And, the age-old question is like, which comedians do you love and this like that. But I'm more interested, what qualities do other comedians have that you like admire? That you're like, man, I wish I was better in that regard.
Ooh, this is a really good question. I like fearlessness, but I don't like it until likability has been established. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Because I have seen people go up and try to gut an audience right off the bat. And I just think this is too soon. People have to like you before you can start saying this kind of stuff.
Right.
So, but I do like that. Qualities that I admire. I admire honesty. I mean, I admire silliness. There are so many qualities. But if you're talking about the most, I love Richard Pryor because of how, he did really goofy stuff before, but it was still socially relevant. But I really enjoyed his honesty later on in his specials. Like, after he lit himself on fire, smoking crack, and he talks about that. I don't know how you find comedy in that.
That's brave.
But he managed to. And so I think that's pretty important. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. I like it. And really breaking it down, what is it that you truly love about your job of doing stand-up, but also what's that thing you just absolutely can't stand about it?
Can't stand about it would be, I don't know if there's anything I can't stand. What I really like about it, and if you can hear a dog barking, that's my dog. He's outside for this. Really like about it is kind of like the getting together in a group. Like when I was in high school, we'd get together, we'd have a bonfire, and then I'd stand up and kind of start, making fun of the teachers and doing impersonations and stuff. And I just enjoy that aspect of it where they're walking into a room, leaving everything else outside. And we're just going to sit and a couple people are going to talk, hopefully be entertaining. But I really like it. Like, I love when I say something and I'll see a couple will like elbow each other. I think that's fantastic because it's like, okay, now we're locked in. Yeah, I think that's what I like the most. What I dislike, I like travel. It's gotten harder to travel, but I still enjoy it. What else do I dislike? You got me. That's a good question. I'll put it on the back burner and see if I
Yeah.
can come up with something.
Yeah, man. You just hit me on social media. It's fine. You hit me with Twitter or whatever. It's fine. So actually, which actually leads into a couple of my other questions.
Oh, I know. I hate social media. There. Thank you. I cannot stand that you are expected to constantly be in people's faces and advertising yourself and taking new pictures and all of that shit. It's like, can't we just put up an old picture, one that they'll recognize? I would think one picture throughout the years would work better, especially with me. I mean, I have aged probably 700 years in 20 years. So I don't need to be sending out new pictures every month.
Right. Like, he looks grayer this week. I don't know.
Yeah, he sure does.
But yeah, no, that actually led me right into what I was going to ask, is that you've been doing this 20 years and doing it at, in my opinion, a high level for 20 years. How have you seen comedy and stand-up change over that time?
I think that's it. I mean, that same week I was in Philly when that guy came up and did the IHOP bit, there was a YouTuber there on the Friday Late Show, and it was jam-packed with children wearing the same outfit. All the dudes had one outfit on, maybe different colors. All the girls had the same dress on, maybe different colors. And I just thought, man, from YouTube, huh? You're just in your bedroom making a video and all these kids come out. And now TikTok and all that stuff. And I'll tell you something. I don't mind it. And if you can figure it out, good for you. I don't want to start over with all the social media stuff to try to get people to come out. So I mean, I released that 12th Night on Pandora exclusively for 1 month. And people are like, hey, can you get some kind of platform that wasn't around when the dinosaurs exist? It's like, well, Pandora's been so good to me that I'll give them this album and hopefully they can help me back. So I don't know. It's all the technology stuff. Yikes. When I started, I had 2 VCRs. I had 1 master tape, and I would transfer my set and then send it out in padded envelopes to get work. And now people are just texting the club owner. It's pretty fascinating.
So like a guy took that from you and actually walked it to where they're going and like gave it to them. Like that doesn't seem in our timeline. Like it's like mail. Who mails things?
Yeah, I know.
And so, okay. So, and honestly, my next question was going to be, given the rise of the internet and social media influencing, like, how has that influenced comedy, positive and negative? But we're going to skip right over that because I think you made your point. What about the pandemic? Like that, because I know you were setting up to do, what was it, like the Honesty Tour, and you were gearing up to do this and had these dates lined up, and then obviously, rightfully so, everything got shut down. How did that time off? Like, I've heard stories of people like, this has been great for my creativity. I sit down and write, and other people that are like, I can't, like, it's just writer's block because I'm just staring at a page. Where did you kind of fall in the pandemic?
Probably in the middle, because I felt creative, but I was doing 0 writing because I was just like, I didn't know when the lockdown was going to end. And I'll tell you something. I am not a human being that can sprint unless I know where the finish line is. So I was not just going to be doing all this stuff. And I know a lot of people use social media to go backwards a question. They use social media to keep the momentum going, and good for them. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think it's a good thing. I just don't like it because I don't want to be, I think of myself as not this befuddled old man that's like, hey, turn it on. I don't want to have to do that. And I can figure stuff out. It just takes me a little longer. And the TikTok stuff I'll never get on because I don't get it. 7 seconds is not long enough to make a point. But I just went total blank. Okay. So when I was home, I just decided, my daughter was distance learning, and it was so much fun because normally when she's at school and there's no lockdown, I would work when I did not have her, and I would be home when I did have her. Right. And so when I didn't have her, I never saw her. That was a week of not seeing her. But when the lockdown happened, I was home. She was at my place the whole week. And then sometimes her mom would have something to do and she would come over for lunch. And we had never had that before. So for me, it was fascinating. I was finding out all this fun shit I'd never done. And I thought it was great. So I didn't write, but then when I went back on the road, I just could not stop scribbling the stories that had happened. And so I think they were always churning up there, but I didn't want to put too much effort into it because I didn't know what was going to happen.
Right. And with the climate of how things change constantly, with that great joke you came up with this week, next month could be a waste because of things changing.
Yeah, exactly. People just screaming, "You son of a bitch liar!"
The old news,
I
or
wrote
fake
it 3
news.
weeks ago. Excuse me, I wrote 3 weeks ago. That's so funny then. Remember?
Yeah, that was funny then. No, that's so good. So I'm curious. Okay, so you do the podcast with Cy Amundsen, and somewhere or somewhere of somewhere is what I just middle of somewhere. My God, I drew a complete blank on there. And I'm curious because you have someone like Kevin Smith who does a lot of podcasting, and the story goes that he came up with this idea for a movie and did like the whole movie, and then ended up making it real with that walrus movie Tusk. It made me think: have you ever come up with material just from kind of shooting the shit on the podcast, where you're like, "Oh my God, that'd be a great bit," and then chase it down?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of thrown stuff out to see if it would stick. And there are a couple stories that I've told on the podcast. Like my daughter failed her driver's test. I told that story on the podcast. And now I'm telling that in my act. And there have been other times, like I've been on Bob and Tom Radio. I don't know if you know the show Bob and Tom, but they have helped so many comedians skyrocket. And I was on there one day, and Tom asked me a question, and I was telling the story, and then Bob jumps in with a line that makes me laugh, and then I come back at him with a line that makes him laugh, and I'm like, oh, we just wrote the ending to this bit. So it absolutely happens, even just chatting with buddies sometimes, So the podcast, I think, has helped, and that was the one thing that was kind of a creative outlet during the lockdown that I really, really looked forward to. And unfortunately, my podcast partner, Cy, has had some issues with his back, and so I had to have guests on, and then I was doing this stupid character, and but it was just fun to be goofy and silly during all that nonsense.
Yeah, and I know you had your mom on for a few episodes, which I'm sure. I really like. Was that an enjoyable experience for you, or was that like more awkward than anything?
No, I loved it. She came in, and I could tell she was a little nervous, but she was excited. It was fun to give her that opportunity because she has put up with so much shit from me. So it was nice to give her that little, and she got so many nice compliments from the listeners. It was fun. Yeah.
Oh man. And we are coming up on time, so I want to give you a couple more little ones here before we get going. You're about to set off on this tour. I saw starting in Albany, September 14th, all the way through Portland in the end of December. Which you're coming through the Virginia area. We have to link up or something, man. I'm gonna come check you out.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'll give you some feedback. I'll give you some pointers. It'll be fine. I'll let you know what's working. But do you have anything else? And 12th Night, I know, is out right now. I gave it a listen. I loved it. It's classic Chad Daniels. And I wanted to give you the chance to promote anything you want to promote, talk about anything you want to talk about, let people know where they can find you and support you and do all that stuff.
Well, I mean, you can go to all the social media stuff. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'll tell you this, though. The only place I look at messages, like DMs, is on Instagram, because I feel like if I'm doing all of them, I'll never get anything else done. And I'm not great at returning messages. So be patient if you do that. But yeah, I mean, that's where you can get most of the dates. I have a website, chaddaniels.com, that has all my tour dates. As far as promoting stuff, I mean, I would say it's been a long year and a half for everybody. So if there's a comedy club open near you, I don't care if I'm there or someone else is there, I would say give it a shot. Even if you don't know the person's name, maybe watch a video, so you don't get your world rocked. But you could give them a chance. I mean, there are so many comedians that are absolutely hilarious that just haven't gotten the recognition yet, but they're out there working their asses off and working every day. So I would say if I was going to promote something, it would be taking a chance on stand-up around where you live.
Yeah. Up and comers, showcases, things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's beautiful, man. That's touching.
Well, and you said showcases. I think that's perfect. If there's a showcase at the comedy club where you live, where young kids are trying to get to a festival or trying to get on TV, go to those, because you are getting the best 7 minutes that person has. And it is an absolute blast. Plus, you get to see something really fun. All of a sudden you find out this kid got, Tonight Show or something. It's kind of a neat through line for everybody.
Yeah. You knew him before he was famous.
Yes.
You saw him first. Lastly, I want to ask, so I help teach this intro comedy class for veterans and whatnot. And we always stress the importance of listening to yourself, recording yourself, playing and listening to how it went. And it's always like the biggest thing, like, I don't like hearing myself and I don't like listening to how it went. Do you have any advice for those new people? I know you've stressed before about the importance of listening to your own material. So I'm just curious, any tips I can show the kids?
You just have to do it. It's like a golfer recording his swing, a pitcher recording everything about how he's throwing. A joke I'll just say this, one syllable in a joke can be make or break. It sounds ridiculous, but when you stress one syllable one night and it gets an applause break, and you don't stress it the next night and it kind of sits there and gets some giggles, that's pretty huge. And when you are thinking about it in your human mind, you go, oh, that's exactly how I told it last night, but it isn't. So you go back and you listen and you go, oh shit, that's right. I said it like that and I paused differently here, and all of a sudden that's the difference. So I say you have to. And you know what? If there's nothing that stands out that's huge that you think like, I need to hear it, then don't listen to yourself, because that's a crazy person, But if there's something that you recognize and you go, I'll have to listen to that.
Yeah.
Then at least you have in the archives. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard newbies all the time where they're like, did they laugh? Because I didn't even hear it. Like, you're just going through your jokes and like, you didn't even listen. Like, well, then listen to the tape, because
yeah, exactly.
then you'll hear the laughs. You'll know where you were stepping on their laughs. Oh man, this has been on it. We didn't even get to there was so much I wanted to ask you about the festivals and about TV appearances and all these different things. But Chad, man, it has been the delight of a lifetime to have you on the show, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time.
And you are absolutely welcome back anytime. Anytime you want to just shoot the breeze or talk about we can talk about pop culture stuff, man. You want to talk about comic books and movies and whatever, man. We'll have a gas over it, man. This has been fun. Guys, make sure you check out Chad Daniels, chaddaniels.com, and tour dates and everything. He's going to be all over the country. You got to find him. Like I said, I'm absolutely coming to see you in Virginia. It's a bit of a drive for me, but it'll be worth it, I'm sure. Cool. And with that, guys, we're going to toss to a quick break. I'm going to say goodbye to Chad, and then we'll do more show after this. Shots.